Hello everyone, thanks for joining us on this edition of The Inside on EQUINOXE Television. I am Babile Jonathan. In this edition of the program, we're going to be taking a look at issues concerning the presidential election that will be coming up in the Republic of Cameroon on the 7th of October 2018. Several political leaders have declared their candidacy, including the President of the Republic, who has equally made known his intention to stand as candidate for the presidential election of 7th of October 2018. After more than 3 decades in power, the President of the Republic intends to run the race to maintain his seat at the Unity Palace. Will equally be taking a look at other issues, notably concerning our series on the way out of the Anglophone crisis that has continued deepening in the northwest and southwest regions of the country. We'll equally be talking about some challenges on the shoulders of our guest, who was recently appointed by the President of the Republic as board chair of the Douala General Hospital. We'll be taking a look at all that in this edition of the program. In some few seconds, discover our guest. Our guest in this edition of the program is a senior political scientist. He is a former member of government, former Minister of Forestry and Wildlife of the Republic of Cameroon. He is the board chair of the Douala General Hospital. Professor Elvis NGOLE, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you, Jonathan, and it's always a pleasure to be with you and to share ideas with your television audience. I think that through this medium, we will enrich our knowledge, and at the same time, we'll be able to reach out to people who could also be enriched by what we're going to say on this medium. Now,
the presidential election in Cameroon will be taking place on the 7th of October 2018, as announced by the President of the Republic, and he himself has announced his candidacy, and he did so on Twitter.
Yes, we are all excited that the President has called the elections for 7th of October, and that today we learn that he has accepted the appeals and the calls by the people of Cameroon to be a candidate, of course, the candidate for the CPDM party and its allies. First of all, I think that it's very welcoming and very soothing that the President has accepted to be the candidate based on the calls of the people. But as you saw from the message that was on Twitter, the President has clearly stated that he's conscious of the challenges that we all face, and that he is a candidate because he wants that, together with the other Cameroonians both at home and abroad, because don't forget that the message was addressed to Cameroonians at home and Cameroonians in the diaspora.
And he's standing again as a candidate for the presidential election after close to 4 decades in power, which many think that is not the best for it.
No, one could not judge whether it's good, better, or best, or whether a candidate is good, better, or best based on the number of years or the number of terms, because at the end of the day, we are a republic, and by dint of the fact that we are a republic, in political science, a republic is a political system in which the people decide. We shouldn't forget that it's the people who decide. And our laws, the laws of the republic, do not say that because you've been in power for X number of years, you should be a candidate or you should not be a candidate. So, the President's candidacy is backed by not only the Republican laws that we've got, the laws support the candidacy, but the norms and the spirit of the Republic also supports this candidacy, because there is no law, there is no institution. Our Constitution does not stop someone from being a candidate at any time. The conditions that the law sets do not include the number of times you've been there, because at the end of the day, in the spirit of the Republic, the way the Republic functions, it is the people who decide. If the people say no to you, it's no. If the people don't want you, they'll say they don't want you. And from what we know, in the last months, the people have been saying from across the length and breadth of this country that they're appealing to the president to run again as a candidate. But recently, the chiefs of Cameroon, traditional, the Fons and the Lamidos and so forth, have called on him to run. And today, in his acceptance declaration, he says that he has accepted the appeals by the people of Cameroon for him to run, conscious of the fact that we all have problems which he would like to solve together with us in order to make our country more stable and more prosperous.
But many have equally been saying that staying in power for too long is a major problem in many African countries today, including Cameroon.
Well, I tell you what, staying in power for too long, I don't think there's any theory in political science which states that when or if you stay in power too long, then it's something bad. No, because we know that...
is it democratically correct?
Oh, it is democratically correct, because in other countries, which are democratic countries, this is used. Don't forget that in Britain, which is a very old democracy, democratic country, there is no term limit to office. In Germany, the same. Even, and I say, I mean, I'm a student of American political science. I studied in the United States, as you know. In America, the term limits came up only after the experience of the president who ran for 3 terms. So, even in the beginning of the American Republic, there was no term limit. And term limits were not placed in order to make somebody look good or bad or better or best. Term limits are simply an agreement, an arrangement that the people, the citizens of a republic have inserted in either the laws or in the Constitution in order to carry out politics in that particular republic. So term limits are specific to countries depending upon the character of the republic, the history of the republic, and the laws that have been put in place.
Prof, how do you feel, or what's your reaction when you hear somebody say that Emmanuel Macron, who is the president of France today, was in secondary school when the president of the republic was already in power, and he has grown until he has become the head of state of France, and President Paul Biya is still in power?
I'm sure that President Macron still considers President Biya as a very wise elder and someone that he holds in high esteem. That is why, you forget that a week ago, he telephoned him in order to get his wisdom, in order to get his advice, in order to get his vision. So, you know, politics or power, political power, is not driven by what generation one belongs to. It's not a generational issue. You can be 15 years old and be a leader. Just like you can be 90 years old or 100 years old and you are a leader. What counts most is your leadership efficient, effective? Does it deliver the goods? Does it deliver the results that people expect and people want or people desire? In different societies, when and if the citizens consider that when you are older, you can deliver the goods, they'll vote for you. Don't forget that Tunisia's president is not a young person. And it is not the first time that people of a certain age have become president. And so term limits are not designed to make somebody...
To bring a change. They're designed to bring a change.
No, change can come after 1 day, change can come after 10 days, change can come after 1 year, change can come after 10 years or 100 years. What's important is that all human beings, all societies want change, need change, and they aspire for change. Nobody is against change.
And we've been hearing many government officials saying it repeatedly that the young people are the leaders of tomorrow.
Indeed,
but those young people grow up and they get old, many of them who are qualified and competent to handle some positions, but they are never given the chance because the old people have continued maintaining their grip on power. I listened to a young man who told me that since he was born, he has not heard any other president other than Paul Biya. He has not heard any other president of the National Assembly other than Kabayegi Jibril, and so on. He cited a number of examples.
It's normal for young people, some, to express themselves in that manner. It's almost like a young person will say, I've never known of anybody except my father and my mother. If you study political sociology, young people are supposed to learn from their elders, from their fathers, how they do things, so that the day they become also elders, because young people to become elders, they will know how to do it. Young people are not supposed to wish away or drive away people because they are older. You don't do that, because if you do that, it is tantamount to driving your father and mother away. Just like you've learned that you are not supposed to, your father and your mother are never a danger to you. The relationship between you and your father and mother is a complementary one. Your father and mother look forward to a day when you will be a mother, you will be a father, and you would have learned from them. This is how young people should do. So when you find a young person who is maybe out of despair or out of frustration or out of ambition, for example, he wants to jump very quickly to be in a position of leadership. Well, you don't blame him. He could be an ambitious young person. I mean, we are animals, and political animals for that matter. We are free to be ambitious. But your ambition should not make you lose sight of the fact that in life, in evolution,
you have to learn.
You have to learn, and you prepare yourself to be a participant and to be a leader.
And young people should learn from the elders.
Yes.
But when we look at the configuration of the different administrative institutions in Cameroon today, you will observe that old people are advising old people, because they are only old people in the different positions of responsibility. And so how will the young come to learn?
No, one thing I would say, I mean, based on the record, because the record is there, is that because of the political vision and the political philosophy of President Biya, President Biya has introduced into our daily thinking, our daily mindset, and into public policies, the necessity to bring in lots of young people. President Biya has shown a lot of sensitivity to young people. You can see first at the level of government, he's brought in quite a good number of young people at the level of government. You can see that. At the level of administration, a lot of young people are appointed to at levels of administration, a lot. At the level of local government, whether it is councils, especially in councils, councillors and mayors, you find that there are a lot of young men and women who are councillors, a lot of young men and women who are mayors. And I've seen that the political party, the CPDM that I belong to, and that is for which he is the national president, that political party has a whole wing, specialized wing, only dedicated to young people. And it doesn't surprise me, therefore, you can tell the last act, he's using a mode of communication that is pretty popular amongst young people, which is the Android mode, the Twitter, to announce his candidacy for the election of presidential election of October 7th. That tells you President Biya is identifying with the young people of Cameroon. He is sending a positive message to the young people of Cameroon that don't be desperate. The Cameroon is for you.
I know your problems, and I'm working towards solving your problems.
Solving your problem. And I want to identify with you. I want to be with you.
But when you walk on the streets, Prof,
yes,
you will hear questions like, he has been in power, the President of the Republic, for close to 4 decades now, and there are lots of things that he has not done. Yeah. Is he going to do those things in the next 7 years? What he has been unable to do for 35 years?
No, I'm convinced that no man on earth, no leader on earth can ever be able to say that he can or has done everything. Even the leader who is the most intelligent or the most whatever, it's no human being, no human endeavor, by the way, can be all done, all said, and all realized. In our humility, human humility, in our human candor and sincerity, we should be able to say, do the most you can do and look forward to doing more if and when you have a chance to do so. I think President Biya, we've known him to be someone who has shown modesty, sincerity, humility, and he has shown Cameroonians that he has the will to work with other Cameroonians. He has the will to keep on doing more than he has done, and he is not, at no point has he shown that he has given up or that he is desperate or that he is discouraged. He is a positivist. He is an optimist. He's not an Afro. He's among the generation of African leaders that we can say they are Afro-optimists. They are not Afro-pessimists. President Biya is a positive person by nature, by attitude, by character, by policy, and by philosophy. And I believe that in spite of the fact that he has transformed Cameroon, that makes him a transformational leader in Africa. I think that by accepting to be the candidate for the 7th October elections, he is telling us that he still has the will, he still has the vision, and he still has the commitment and the determination to do even more.
During the last Congress of the main opposition political party in Cameroon, the Social Democratic Front, the national chairman handed over the baton of command as far as the presidential election is concerned to a young person, O.C. Joshua, who is the first vice president of the party, and he's now the flag bearer. And John Frundi said he was sending a message to other political leaders. The President of the Republic did not hear this?
Well, we have to, I mean, as you know, we are Cameroonians. Mr. John Frundi, we should appreciate him for taking that initiative or that lead. He is a political party leader, and he decided in his political party to take that initiative. We, as Cameroonians, fellow Cameroonians, we appreciate him for that. But it does not mean that because he took that initiative within the limits or framework of his party, the other 300 political parties should necessarily do the same. Every political party, as you know, is a competitive actor. It's political competition among the various political parties. And the fact that one political party has done something, an initiative, for the good of its political party does not necessarily mean that that initiative is good for the other political parties, because they are competitors. They are not enemies. The CPDM and the SDF are not enemies. I'm one of those who's glad to see that the CPDM and SDF are not enemies. In fact, I call them their partners. They are partners in democracy, they are partners in development. And I'm very glad, I'm one of those who's very glad that Mr. John Frundi, whom I know personally, I mean, he has changed, and he's becoming more and more Republican. And I think that we who are militants of our party, we are quite happy that our party does not see Mr. Frundi as a bad man. He is a competitor, a rival to the CPDM, and he's taking initiative for his party. It's good for his party. Let's see how good it will be. But it is not necessarily, and may not necessarily be good for the other parties, because the other parties are competitors. For the CPDM and the other political parties, let us allow them to do it the way it is good for them.
Are you saying that the President of the Republic should not hand over the baton of command
to I'm not saying so.
A young person?
No, I'm not saying so at all. What I'm saying is that let the President, in his capacity as national president of the CPDM, let him do it when
it is necessary.
The CPDM militants of the CPDM party. The party is not the property of the national president. The national president has said this all the time. The party, the CPDM party, belongs to Cameroonians. It is a people's party. It is a party that belongs to the militants that adhere to it and that subscribe to its philosophy and its principles. And the last word, don't forget, it's a Republican party. I don't think that, unless you want to tell me that the decision that was taken in the SDF was a personal decision by Mr. Frundi, which I don't think, I take him to be also a Republican person. But don't forget that our party, the CPDM, is a Republican party, and the national president is a Republican leader who believes that he is heading a Republican movement, a Republican political organization. When the time comes, if the time is ripe, if the people of the militants of that party think that this is the time to make that sort of move, they will make it. They will not make the move because Mr. John Frundi made it at the level of his party. No, they will make the move because it is good for the CPDM at the time that that move will be made. And don't forget, the fact that Mr. Frundi made that move within the framework or the limits of the SDF does not mean that Mr. Frundi is saying that because Mr. Honorable Joshua Osei is younger than him, the party will be better off or the country will be better off because it will be led by a young person. There's no such thing in power or in leadership which says that the younger you are, the better the power, the more effective the power, and the older you are, the less. If that were the case, then you would have expected Mr. Frundi to have resigned a long time ago. What is important is that does the leader, whether he's old or young, deliver the goods, the results, the policy that the people feel comfortable with, the people can consume, and that make the people's life better. If the people don't feel good and are not happy with the leadership, they have a chance in the democratic test that is there for all republics to go to the polls and express their wishes or their choices or their preferences. And that's what we have on October 7th.
Okay, Prof, let's get some clarifications on the rules and regulations of the Cameroon People's Democratic Movement, the CPDM political party. The President of the Republic, who is the national president of that party, has declared his candidacy, yes. But there was no extraordinary or ordinary Congress. But remember that during the last presidential election, there's an official of the party who said, Mr. President, you can't declare your candidacy without passing through a Congress. Is there anything that compels the President of the Republic to pass through either an ordinary or an extraordinary Congress to declare his candidacy?
Yeah, there's a lot of confusion perhaps in the minds of people because they don't understand the text of the party. This is what the text of the party says. Now, I'll be talking as I'm talking as the coordinator of the Academy of the CPDM and militant and a bona fide member of the Central Committee. The text of the party says this, that the national president of the party in any presidential election called at any time is the candidate of the party. That means by dint or by virtue of the statutes of the party. And a party is an organization that runs by rules, by laws, by bylaws, by a constitution. According to the constitution, the bylaws of the party, in any election, presidential election, whenever it is called in Cameroon, the CPDM party's candidate is the national president. That tells you that you don't need the political bureau or the Congress to meet in order for that determination to be made who is the candidate. So, but the party has a choice to organize a Congress, because don't forget Congresses are organized every 5 years, or an extraordinary Congress at any time, when there is need for that. When there is need for that. The party does not hold a Congress because a presidential election has been called and they need to have a candidate, because the party already has a candidate by virtue of its constitution, its bylaws, its text. That is why you notice the militants themselves, because they are conscious of the text, the militants refer to the candidate as the natural candidate. And people say, why is it natural candidate? Well, you don't blame the militants because they too, they are conscious of the statutes. But really it is the statutory legal candidate, constitutional candidate by virtue of the constitution of the CPDM. So a Congress is not convened only because the party needs to determine who is their candidate, because they already know and have a candidate. Now you recall in the case of 2011, when a Congress was called here in Yaoundé, and I was a delegate to that Congress, as you know. In fact, I was in that Congress. I was the president of the Social and Cultural Affairs Committee in the Congress of 2011. And in that Congress, you remember in that Congress, the people of Bakassi, a delegation of the people of Bakassi, came and handed the Bakassi, soil of Bakassi, to the national president to assure him that as far as the people of Bakassi are concerned, Bakassi is Cameroonian. But in that Congress, as you know, the party put on its agenda the confirmation of their candidate.
A confirmation
Of the confirmation of their candidate. They put it on the agenda. They didn't have to put it on the agenda, but it was put on the agenda. As long as it was on the agenda, it was a formality. But in that process,
confirmation, of course, and not selecting, because according to the rules of the party,
it's already known. The candidate is known.
It's already known.
While the Congress was taking place, and as I said, the Congress was not taking place only because they needed to know who was the candidate, because they know already. But in
the case where the president's term of office as the national president of the party is maybe going to expire before the date of the election, what is going to happen?
If it expires before the date of the election?
Yes. Will it be prolonged, or a Congress will be called?
No, if the chairman's, the national president of the party, if his mandate expires, you know, there's a procedure. The Central Committee can convene a Congress or an extraordinary Congress, or the political bureau can meet and can extend it. And this was done earlier already. The political bureau met, as you know, met already and did that. So as far as the CPDM is concerned, there is neither illegality nor illegitimacy. The CPDM candidate is enjoys full legality, full legitimacy as far as his party is concerned.
Okay, Prof, and, I know that
there is no legal or issue of legitimacy.
I know that you belong to the CPDM.
Yes.
But as a political scientist, what do you think about the other candidates who have made known their intentions to run the presidential race? Till now, O.C. Joshua, Vice President of the Social Democratic Front, Maurice Kamto of the Cameroon Renaissance Movement. We equally have Akere Muna of the Now Movement. We have Cabral Libi as well. And just recently, Jean-Jacques Ekindi of the Progressive Movement Party.
Yeah. As a Republican, I think we have to wish them well, because I'm a Republican and a Democrat. I think that they are all Cameroonians who want to exercise their freedom to compete with the candidate, our candidate of the CPDM. I think they are free to exercise their freedom.
Do they represent any major challenge to
in a competition?
To your candidate?
In a competition, everybody is a challenge, because once you've declared your candidacy, you are a challenger. So everyone is a challenge, but to what extent is your challenge meaningful or serious, or how serious is your challenge? Well, it is the people that decide. The people will decide whether, if they don't do their groundwork, if they don't do their work, if it's just a wish. Don't forget that, as the president said once to the French president, you are not a leader only because you wish or you have the ambition or because you made a declaration. You are a leader if you can, meaning if you have the capacity, the ability to make the people love you, make the people want you, make the people appeal to you. I think these other challengers who have made their declarations, they must, first of all, they have up till the 19th of July for their candidacies to be submitted to ELECAM, and for ELECAM to approve these candidacies. They have to pass that first test, and there's a procedure for that. I think so. Just declaring and talking is not enough. They have to first of all pass that test. Secondly, well, they have to go through what every candidate who is challenging and who aspires to be elected goes through.
Okay.
There are factors that enable you to go through. If they have this on their side, that's fine. But from what I know, in political science, for you to be elected, beyond just the declaration, beyond the wish and the ambition, but you need to have action. You have to have people who are organized. You have to have a political platform. You have to have a political vision, a political program. You have to have a record, what they call it, a bilan. You have to have the resources, material and human resources. You have to have a manifesto. And you have to have a campaign, a strong, organized campaign organization. From what we know, from what I know, candidate Bia has these factors. He has a record that these others will have to challenge. The people of Cameroon know what his record is. He has transformed Cameroon. That's already a record. Let the other people show that they have the ability to transform Cameroon. If they can't, well, the Cameroonians will tell us on October 7th.
Even though many are still crying, from the big cities to the hinterlands, problems of bad roads, no roads, from the big cities to the hinterlands, joblessness among the young people increasing. From the big cities to the hinterlands, there are problems here and there and so on. And just of recent, that is 2 years ago,
the insecurities in the north,
insecurity in the northwest and southwest, up north, and so on and so forth.
I agree with you, and this is one of the, you see, the first statement in President Biya's declaration as the candidate of the CPDM for the presidential election, if you look at the Twitter statement, is that first he addresses himself to Cameroonians both at home and abroad in the diaspora. And the second statement is that he is conscious of the challenges that we're all facing. He's conscious of the challenges. These are challenges we're all facing. And President Biya is humble and open enough to tell Cameroonians he is conscious. He is aware. And he's not lying to them. He's telling them that he knows these problems are there. But that as a Cameroonian, as a human being, as their leader, he's willing, if they give him a chance, to solve some of these problems together with them. So President Biya has not declared his candidacy as others do, selling illusions and selling false hopes that, oh, when they are candidate, when they are elected, there will be no problems. There is no political system in the world. There is no country in the world. There is no nation in the world, even the most developed of them, which doesn't have some of these problems or challenges. And President Biya has begun his declaration by revealing to Cameroonians that he's aware, he's conscious of these problems, but that he's telling the people that he's a candidate for the people, of the people, and he wants to be a candidate of the people, for the people, by the people. He is the people's candidate, and it's the people who have appealed to him.
And Cameroonians have heard this for quite a long time now, that the President of the Republic is always responding to the people's call. But
because we are a republic.
But some critics have been saying that the people's call, which the President of the Republic and other political leaders, notably those who are in government, have been talking about, is not very representative. It's coming from some a minority group of elite, from some traditional rulers here and there, and the masses are not very much concerned often with these motions of support and so on.
No, the messages I've seen and the appeals I've seen, I consider that they're pretty representative, because the messages have come from our traditional leaders, and our traditional leaders are the custodians of our cultures, our traditions, our customs. These messages have come from young people, students in universities, student associations. These messages have come from militants of the party, men and women. These messages have come from militants abroad, young and old. These messages are pretty representative. These messages, I think I've seen some that have come from various associations and groups, and like Bayam Salams, like motor taxi men and so forth. So as far as I know, I think these messages are public documents. Anyone can read them. Sure, there are some people who don't agree with these messages. It's very normal, because this is a republic. And President Biya believes and insists that Cameroon should be a republic that is meaningful, that is exemplary, that is ideal. And that is why President Biya always has relied on the people. Let the people decide. Those who don't agree, they are free to disagree. I think it's very normal. In the Republican context, in the Republican spirit, you don't expect every person. When we say the people simply in political science means the greatest majority, a representative sample of the people. The people, the concept of the people does not mean that it is everybody that has to say yes or everybody that has to say no. So far, all the messages from the people have been positive. Perhaps there have been some that have been negative. That's normal in a republic. As long as politics remains a Republican endeavor, a Republican character, which is in line with the political vision and philosophy of President Biya. President Biya is at ease and comfortable with the fact that we are a republic in which the citizens are free. We are a republic in which the citizens can express themselves yes or no. We are a republic in which the people's freedom is intact and should stay intact we are a republic in which it is the people who decide at the end of the day.
Right.
Sure, some will say no, because in the election so far, we've got what? About 12 or maybe 20-something candidates that have declared. I don't know how many will have their candidacies approved by ELECAM and the Constitutional Council. But at the end of the day, almost all of them, each of them will get some votes. That means that there will be some people who will not agree with the choice, the candidacy, but they are part of the people of Cameroon.
Okay, Prof, we're going to take a short break time for us to take a look at what the newspapers reported this week. The press review by Smart Njikan Gebre.
The implementation of President Biya's emergency aid plan and presidential election are the major news highlights cutting across newspapers this week. The Voice reports that soldiers hunt terrorists in hospital, compelling doctors, nurses and patients in the Batibo District Hospital to flee, provoking an ordeal for HIV patients and pregnant women. In the Post, Boyame Ekema Patrick Esunge asks if he is a francophone and why the Amber Boys are attacking him. The media reports the rejection of government humanitarian aid by Anglophone refugees in Nigeria, and the Horizon highlights the fact that the rejection comes as government swings into action, referring to Territorial Administration Minister Atanganji Paul as Biya's miracle minister. The Voice reports that he is in action enforcing the implementation of the emergency aid plan to displace Anglophone Cameroonians. Eden puts forth the question, is the CPDM using humanitarian plan for Biya's campaign? And if President Biya was to step down, the Guardian Post asks, who will run for the CPDM? The news article highlights names of 4 possible successors muted within party circles after the head of state convened the electorate for October 7 despite worsening crisis in the northwest and southwest regions. The Guardian Post reports that a CPDM landslide victory at the presidential election is certain as no opposition coalition is in sight, while Communication Minister Issa Chiroma Bakari accuses the main opposition party of shooting itself on the leg, as reported by the Star. The Guardian Post indicates the presence of AU Commission chair in Cameroon as the Anglophone crisis persists, and Newswatch questions what the AU can do as Musa Faki Mahamat visit the country shortly after the 31st ordinary session of the Assembly of Head of States and Governments of the AU in Mauritania. And that is all for the press review in this edition of The Insight. More news from the papers next week.
That was the press review by Smart Njikan Gebre. Now, Prof, when you look at the political climate in Cameroon today as a political scientist, is it comfortable, is it favorable for the presidential election to unfold hitch-free?
Well, I tell you what, as a political scientist, as you've asked, all elections are very defining moments in the history, in the life, and in the evolution of a political society, or the nation, or a republic. They are defining moments, and they tend to be characterized by lots of tension, passions, emotions, anxiety, generally. In some countries, as you know, because I'm not teaching you that you're a man of the field, lots of unfortunate things happen, which are not desirable. Luckily, in our country, we are at least Cameroonians. They are generally people who are cool-headed, level-headed, and so far our elections have taken place without much misfortune and so forth and so on. Now you want to know, can the elections take place as a political scientist? Yes. Why do I say they can take place hitch-free? They can take place hitch-free for the following reasons. One, the elections are based on the law. And a republic without laws, a republic where people don't respect the laws is not a republic. It's a republic that is bound to fail. And President Biya, by respecting the law, President Biya, by respecting the values of the republic, President Biya, by respecting the constitution, is teaching us something through that, through the decree to convene the electoral corps, through his candidacy, that we should be citizens of the republic a republic that respects laws. As long as there is the law, don't forget that the law in political science means it's a regulatory mechanism. Law is a mechanism of regulation, regulation of attitudes, regulation of behavior. It's also a mechanism of what do you say, sanction. In other words, the law tells you what to do and what not to do, and the law tells you if you breach it, what will happen or what will not happen. And as long as you respect the law and you're conscious of the law, you reduce the chances of hitches. Secondly, it will be hitch-free because, first, from a standpoint of legitimacy, from the standpoint of the republic, the people of Cameroon want to have a chance to express themselves in freedom because it is democratic to express yourself. An election is a test by which citizens express themselves freely. The people of Cameroon were looking forward. They knew that elections would take place according to the law. They knew.
Okay,
and
Prof,
they're expecting it.
I'm sure you must have heard that the convoy of the Minister of Defense was attacked by separatist fighters in the southwest region of the country, and that speaks volumes of the deepening crisis. So when we look at this, how elections, Cameroon officials going to deploy themselves on the field? How will campaigns take place in those two regions? How will people come out of their homes to come and vote? And how will those who have run away and they're in the bushes in Nigeria and so on, how are they going to vote? These are the questions that need answers.
You've asked a very pertinent and legitimate question. Indeed, it's a question that is typically a question that's asked by free citizens. If we were not free, that question would not even be asked. Don't forget, but the fact that you're asking shows that we are free. And Cameroonians have a right to ask that question. But this is what I will say to you as a political scientist. I'm not going to talk, I'm not talking as a militant. As a political scientist, elections that are backed by the law, backed by the Constitution, as long as there is law and Constitution, does not succumb to socio-political challenges, whether they are of a security nature or not, does not. So, just because there's a security challenge does not, in spite of the presence, the existence of the law and the Constitution, does not render, does not prohibit elections from taking place. That is why in several countries where there are security, socio-political challenges, I can give you result. Egypt, elections took place. We know what the challenges are there with the terrorists that are there. Iraq, elections took place. Syria, elections took place. With all the security challenges we know. In Nigeria, our very good, excellent, brotherly and sisterly nation, elections took place there and they will take place next year. But we know that our neighbor is also going through the same sort of security challenges that we are going through. But the elections are valid, they are legitimate, they are legal.
But the question is...
Cameroon is no exception to that.
But the question is how legitimate and representative will the results be, considering that many people may not vote, many have not registered as
the
well.
elections in Egypt were valid, they were legal. We know the president of Egypt. In Iraq, we know that the president. In Syria, we know. In Nigeria, we know that President Buhari is the president. And he's legal, legitimate president, constitutional president. In Afghanistan, we know that there is president. In short, what I'm trying to say is that the law is the highest authority, and a conflict, a challenge, can never have authority over the law. The law is always supreme, and the law will always be the regulator of everyone. And he who doesn't respect the law is rendering his life or her life meaningless in a republic of laws.
But Prof,
so,
the law is meant to be respected by men.
By everyone, not by everyone.
And the law is made for human beings, and not human beings made for the law.
No, the law is made for human beings. That is why the law says
that human lives are more important than the law.
I agree with you. The law is made for human beings. That is why the law, the first thing it says is that on September 7th, there's an election, according to the law, the electoral law and the Constitution. So we all respect it by going to vote. Now, because there's a security challenge, you refer to separatists. Separatists are an extremist group of people who have decided that they want to have another country whose name they've given that you know. Therefore, they've decided that the law that exists, that regulates you and I in Cameroon. They don't want to respect that law. They don't want to obey it.
Prof, is the law more important than human lives?
No, but the law is what regulates human life. The law is what, the law is, in fact, see, the law is God on earth. God is the primary law, the ultimate law for all human beings. But on this earth, the earth that you and I call Mother Earth, in an earth of republics, nations, or nation states, the law is God. And if you decide that you will not respect law on earth, I'm very sure that you will not respect even God when you meet God. Because there is no way that you can say you are above the law. Law, as you said, is made for man, meaning man must respect the law. It is not the other way around. If
laws are meant to be respected.
By respected,
that's
and
what you're saying.
separatists cannot make themselves an exception. If you're an exception, what you're saying is you don't want to respect the law, but if you decide not to respect the law on earth, I'm very convinced that you will not respect God even when you see God, when the time comes, because I don't know when one sees God. But on this earth, the only thing I know is that God on earth is the law. And you have to respect it.
We take interviews of the week, and when we come back, we'll take a look at the other issues that are surrounding the elections and, of course, national life.
It is quite disgracing and embarrassing that in the present atmosphere of Cameroon, we can still think of election. We spoke here some time ago, there is no need for election in 2018. Looking at the 3 cardinal points or the 4 cardinal points of Cameroon, north, south, east, west, you realize that tension ranges all over.
I have the honor to announce that I'll be candidate on the upcoming presidential election.
I call on Cameroonians to stay focused and seek God. The Lord tells us in His holy book that when my people gather in my house and call on His name, I will heal their land. So let Cameroonians be focused and let us seek God, and God will intervene.
You're welcome back. Thanks for staying with us and with our guest, Professor Elvis NGOLE, political scientist, former member of the Cameroon government and board chair of the Douala General Hospital. We're going to continue in some minutes to take a look at the way out of the crisis. We are continuing with our series on the way out of the ongoing crisis rocking the northwest and the southwest regions of the country. Prof, the elections are coming and the crises are there. What should government do at this point in time to make sure, first of all, that the elections unfold hitch-free and that peace returns to this country?
All right. I think that's a good question also. The government has the challenge because the challenge and the duty to make sure that the elections take place hitch-free because they are democratic elections. And to do that, the government has the responsibility through the institutions of the state institutions that have been that are there to manage and organize elections, and those state institutions whose responsibility it is by law to manage and organize elections are ELECAM, the Constitutional Council, the State Security Services, the administrative setup, meaning MINAT, and political parties included, and traditional councils, meaning chefferies, lamidats, or fondoms. All these civil society actors, these organizations, these are all actors or stakeholders in the electoral process. Everyone has a duty to make sure to do their job. You've asked the job, what is the role then of the government? Meaning, what must the government do? One, the government has to make sure that only the law guides who does what, when, and how. One cannot go outside of the law because the law is the supreme authority. We respect the law. So the laws must be put in place, meaning everyone who's supposed to implement, to enforce, should do their job correctly. Two, the security services will have to make sure that no citizen is deprived of his freedom or her freedom to exercise their right to vote, and no citizen should be hurt, citizens should be protected. 3, the administrative setup, meaning must make sure that they facilitate the job of making sure that the elections take place hitch-free. That means to say, if a road is blocked, if a road is bad, if the bridge is broken, if there's no water for people to drink, if there's no electricity, all these are things that need to be put in place. If, things that have to facilitate the process, and to make sure that on the election, during the election campaign, on election day and after the election day, the process has gone on without someone violating somebody's right to existence, without someone violating somebody's right to express their freedom to express themselves, so that before the election, during the election, after, we can all continue to be
fair and transparent.
Everybody has, but this is what I said on the part of the government, what has to be done. But civil society, political parties, traditional authorities also have a role to play. The role that they have to play is not just to...
And no one should substitute the other.
And no one should substitute the other. The role that these other stakeholders and actors should play is to educate their militants, to educate, to advise, to orientate, if you want, the citizens, and to try to advise them, and to try to say, an election is meaningful only to the extent that there's peace. An election is meaningful only to the extent that people still have their freedom. An election is meaningful only to the extent that people don't deprive others. You may not agree with an election because an election is based on freedom. Freedom means that you have the right to vote, but you may decide not to exercise that right. And you may decide to exercise the right in the way you want. But if you decide not to exercise it, no one should violate your integrity.
The way out of the crisis now?
The way out of the crisis, I believe, and if you're asking a political scientist, is this: that as a republic, we have a right to express our views and disagree or agree. That's true. But we should not use this right to destroy the republic or destroy ourselves. You asked, what do we go to for the crisis to be? So I said, look, we should agree that we believe in the law, we respect the law, and that in the spirit and letter of the law, we should not use our freedoms to destroy our house and our freedoms. That's the first thing. It is a question of mindset. We should question ourselves, what am I doing? Secondly, those who have decided to violate the law by killing people, by creating fear, by intimidating people, by depriving people of their normal life, I think it's good for them to think about it themselves and say, while we may still disagree, and disagreement is a typically Republican equation. There's nothing wrong with disagreement. There's nothing fatal. There's no fatality in disagreement. Disagreement is normal. Even you and your wife disagree, but you're still husband and wife. We disagree every day as Christians, as Muslims, as Jews, we disagree. But it doesn't make us enemies. It doesn't make us become animals. So we should decide that those who have decided not to respect the law, it is their choice. But they should make sure at least to let the people free, let them not disturb people. That makes it possible for us to continue to disagree. That makes it possible for even the security forces to say, okay, we have understood that they don't want to intimidate, therefore we too will withdraw. That makes it possible for me to come towards you and want to talk with you, even though I know that you will not agree with me. That makes it possible for dialogue to take place. That makes it possible for us to come to common ground. But look, no dialogue, no common ground, no consensus. Democracy does not thrive when guns are shooting. Democracy does not thrive when people are running away for fear of their lives. Democracy does not thrive when people cannot stay in their homes, when people cannot move from Kumba to Boya, or from Bamenda to Fundong. It is important that we understand that we love each other. Even if we disagree, Even those whom you call separatists, I still consider them that they are our brothers and sisters. They are our fellow citizens. I cannot see them as enemies, and I will not wish them away. My own wish as a Republican is that let us make our republic a meaningful republic. Even if you don't want to be part of the republic anymore, don't forget, not to want to be part of a republic is nothing new. All over the world, you know, I mean, the theory of migration. If you study the theory of migration, migration simply means it's a process by which people from one place decide that they don't want to be part of that place anymore. They want to be part of somewhere else for various reasons, for economic reasons, for reasons which are psychological, emotional. There's nothing wrong with that. You see, the fact that we disagree, the fact that somebody doesn't want to be part of the republic anymore, does not give him or her the right to intimidate, to kill, to violate the law. You don't have to. You can decide that because you don't want to be part of it anymore, you just want to migrate. There's nothing wrong with that. But for you to say you want to force everybody by violating the law, by intimidating somebody, you want to force everybody to fear your gun, to fear your intimidation, and to run away. At the end of the day, this is not a good way to build a society, because if this is your mode of, modus operandi, it means that the day that you'll be anywhere you find yourself, this is the way you'll conduct yourself. You know, all that you are saying is that all you're going to have is a jungle. All you're going to have is a mafia sort of society. I don't think this is what you want. I don't think a jungle or a mafia society is an ideal society. An ideal society is where people agree and disagree in a civilized way, and that they solve their problems in a civilized way. And an election, such as the one we have on 7th of October, is an opportunity. You are not forced to come and vote. But you know that to vote is a civic right of yours. It's for you to choose and exercise it. But if you decide not to exercise it, don't take the gun to scare or to kill somebody. No. You have, I mean, I know from political science that even the most democratic societies that I know, the most developed societies that I know, almost 50% of the people don't go and vote. But nobody makes any noise about it, and nobody says that it's illegitimate or illegal. I'm telling you that statistics show, political science statistics show, that even in the most democratic and the most civilized societies, the most economically developed societies, almost 50% of the people do not go and vote. And yet there's no issue of legitimacy or legality, or illegality on illegitimacy. What that tells you is that the freedom to be or not to be, the freedom to vote or not to vote, does not affect the legitimacy or the legality of an election. As long as the people decide in all freedom, it is legal, it is legitimate. Okay, so Prof, for 7th of October, I hope people will exercise their right in order that we can render this electoral test legitimate and legal.
Okay, Prof, we're going to run up this edition of the program with your new job. You're just taking over the helm of an institution that has been plagued by several problems. Yeah. You are the board chair of the Douala General Hospital. That is a health amenity where there have been constant strike actions of the personnel. Yeah. There have been patients and other public service users complaining about poor services, equipments that have been in bad shape, not functioning sometimes, hemodialysis patients not able to receive their treatment at a certain time, and so on. The challenges are now on your shoulders.
Once again, through your medium, I'm very thankful to the President, and I'll ever remain thankful to the President for renewing his confidence in me. I think I never knew when I was born that I'll be anything or that I could be anything. But the President has found in me something that he sees that I can make a useful contribution. So while thanking him, and I will thank him eternally, I take the appointment as a new challenge to me. A new challenge to me as a human being, as a citizen of Cameroon, to be able to make my modest contribution in a sector which I don't know much about, the health sector. And because I take it as a new challenge, I take that new challenge in all humility, in all candor. In humility and all candor, because